Fishy, fishy, fishy!
What's going on, fishy friends? Alright, here's that 20 long after that good hydrogen peroxide treatment for the algae. It did work really well. After I did what I showed on the videotape, I continued dosing a relatively high rate of Excel for about a week afterwards. Now again, this tank still doesn't really look great, but the majority of the algae is gone. So I think what I might be doing now is not fully tearing down this tank, but I might go ahead and start ripping out some of these plants and trimming things down and sort of replanting and getting things looking a little better in here. I don't know, I have a couple of different ideas floating around in my head. For the time being, for the most part, I'm going to reuse what plants are in here. Maybe I'll add a few other things out of my own, selection from out of some of my other tanks. I'm not exactly sure. I can't find those two Apistos that are in here. I'm starting to think that the two that are left in this tank are both males. So I might think soon about trying to grab a couple of females sooner or later. We'll see about that as time goes on. There's one of them back there. But let me start tearing some of this stuff down, and I'm going to keep spot dosing any algae that I see with hydrogen peroxide as I come across it. But I'll probably pull out some of the wood and just sort of take it slow and kind of, I don't know, see what strikes me and what's going to work where. Alright guys, I'll keep checking in. Alright guys, here we are a little bit later, and here's the mess I have after trying to pull out a bunch of very, very, very heavily rooted plants out of a dirted tank. Here is a big pile of crypts. You can see the massive root system on these things. Again, growing in dirt here obviously works. Here is, well, unfortunately, a good portion of the substrate that I wanted to keep in the tank, and just a mess of roots and plants and daughter plants and these big runner systems and all this. I guess these are considered aerial roots, growing off of the runners and the root system that was just getting too visible. It was up and in the tank and really took away from the plant itself, which is showing some signs of deformities and was dealing with so much algae. But I took each one apart and kind of untangled the giant mess of roots off every one and kind of trimmed down some of these roots. A lot of these went even further than what's still here, but you could tell this thing really loved growing in the dirt. And unfortunately, half of that dirt is now floating around in the tank, so I'm going to try to deal with this and see if I can salvage anything tonight and not have to turn this into a multi-day project. Alright, the big mess continues. This is a few minutes later after what I guess we're going to call the first water change. You can see some clarity in the tank now compared to before, but it's still one big giant mess. I don't know, I'm almost sort of regretting doing this right now. Got a big giant mess down here. Of course, I made a big giant mess on the floor. So hopefully this will all be worth it in the end. Alright guys, that stuff is still settling, and in the meantime, I'm doing a couple of water changes. That tank is still emptying. Drained down the angel tank. Trying a very small water change on the breeding pair here. I can't figure out why these two haven't started breeding again, so I'm going to go for a little less maintenance, I guess we could say. Smaller water changes for a little while on this tank. And let's see, the discus down there got a big water change, and so did that pair of rams. There's the two in here, and everybody else is up here. So while these other tanks keep draining and then filling, I'll keep letting this one settle a little bit. I'll probably do one more water change on it quick, and then hopefully I can see well enough to maybe replant some of this stuff. But I might be better suited waiting until tomorrow for that, just so the rest of the sediment can settle. Then I can keep vacuuming off all the dirt that is resettling on the substrate. So I'll check in on all that stuff and keep going. Alright guys, here we are maybe 24 hours after doing most of that work. The Apistos are still looking really, really good. And I guess that's all that really matters in this tank, because the tank kind of still looks like crap, if you ask me. But we're on the right path, and we got the potential to hopefully figure out what's going on. Keep rescaping a little bit, but you can see what a mess I'm dealing with. Look how much of that dirt substrate just pulled up and is now on top of my sand cap, and just a giant mess everywhere. And like I said, I couldn't really see what I was doing as far as the scape goes yesterday. It's essentially a bare tank right now, so I probably should have put more of those crypts back into this tank and not spread them around in so many other tanks. Kind of regretting that move, but I don't know. I got some dwarf baby tears over there that made it through 24 hours, which is a good sign. These came out of my immersed setup. All of this Marsilia menuda, very, very similar to Glosso. A lot of it is still there and doing well. I got some more of it that I pulled and put in this cup last night, and we'll be dealing with accordingly. So, sort of a complete redo on this tank. Hopefully I'm happier with the results the second time around. So I still got some playing to do, and hopefully I'll call it complete. Alright, I continued moving a few things around, planted a little more dwarf baby tears. Most of that dwarf baby tear came out of my immersed setup over here. Immersed meaning the roots are underwater, or in this case in highly saturated dirt, and the plant itself grows out in the air. Lots and lots and lots of aquarium plants in this hobby are typically grown this way, and it's done for a reason. It's a little easier to grow the plants this way. However, a lot of plants will grow differently immersed versus submerged. Submerged being the plant is 100% underwater, the way you typically find in an aquarium. So a lot of plants go through transitions. Certain plants will grow different leaves immersed versus submerged. But anyway, that's where some of these dwarf baby tears came from. There's some over there, some back there, and a tiny bit more there. So I'll move some things around. I got this big clump of moss over there in the corner. I kind of cut little pieces of the Marsilia menuda, I think that's how you say it. And I'm going to see if I can get a carpet of that going. Besides that, carpet of dwarf baby tears would be nice. Besides that, I used to run this egg crate light diffuser as a way to shade a bit of the light on this tank. I think it was just a little too intense for such a shallow tank. The distance between where the light was when it sits on top of the tank to the substrate is, I don't know, 12 inches or so. So what I did was I rigged it up, and I got my Phoenix LED Planted Plus, I think it's called. This is not the 24/7 model, just the original Planted Plus. So I got that pretty ghetto rigged here, hanging off some hooks with some zip ties. But it's going to serve its purpose. It's going to get the light a little further away from the substrate, which will sort of help me balance out my my CO2 and my light. I don't know if you can see it back there. There's my CO2 diffuser right underneath the intake of my canister filter, and then there's the return on the canister filter. Boy, there's a nasty glare on this tank right now. So the tank's a filthy mess. There's dirt everywhere. I'll go back through and try to vacuum some of that out, and the rest of it, honestly, I'm just going to have to let be until it all kind of settles itself in. But hopefully this is a good balance for this tank, and hopefully things start doing well. It's about all I can hope for. So we'll see what happens. It's a drastic change from before. It was very unplanned and spur of the moment, so we'll take it as it may. I guess an added benefit of having that light a bit elevated, it now provides some illumination over my angelfish. Well, next to my angelfish, I guess I should say. So there's an unintended consequence that'll work out nicely. Alright guys, that's it for now. I'm out of here. I'll check in later.